What's going on, fans of the Los Angeles Lakers and fans of the NBA all around the world? Welcome to the Laker Central podcast, where I discuss the most famous basketball franchise on the planet with the biggest, brightest, and up and coming voices in sports and culture. Before I get into today's show, make sure you tell at least one other Laker fan about the Laker Central podcast. We are building a community one listener at a time. So today is a treat for you guys because I'm joined by two of my favorite guests, Vinay and Alan. What's going on, guys?
What's going on, man? What's going on?
What is up? It is day 17 without no basketball, no NBA, and I think people are losing their minds right now.
They're going crazy. I mean, do you have a positive affirmation to keep
No,
fans kind of
no
calm for the
positive
day?
affirmation. No positive affirmation. The Lakers are still number one in the West. That is my positive affirmation. And you know, I think Braun said that it's him taking like this sudden break is going to mess up with his routine. I think he's lying. I think he's getting rest. I think everybody's getting rest, and I think he's going to be ready to go. And he's setting the expectation low for everybody, so he can come in and just start sweeping people out of the way.
I think Matt Barnes said it last week, man. He said this could possibly be one of the greatest playoffs all around because everybody's getting an unexpected rest. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So whenever they do come back, man, I hope they get a week or two to get a couple games under their belt, and then let's get straight to it.
Yeah, man. I'm hoping. Obviously, health is the most important thing, but I think was it Mitchell, Gobert? Or I don't know if Mitchell got cleared, but I think Gobert, Christian Wood,
Mm-hmm.
a couple other guys got like cleared of the coronavirus. So that's
Yeah.
good. That's good news that they're getting cleared up and stuff like that. So I'm excited.
So since we don't have any new Laker news to talk about, I figured the three of us would get together and just chat about our individual top five all-time NBA duos. So you guys, out there watching or listening, you may agree, you may disagree, you may call us idiots, but
They're gonna call us idiots. They're 100% gonna call us idiots. I'm sure.
this is going to be our top five, and so what we're going to do is start off with number five. So let's just start with you, Vinay. All the duos out there, all time, who would you list as your fifth greatest NBA duo?
My fifth greatest NBA duo is Sean Kemp and Gary Payton.
Woo!
I grew up when in high school. I wore number 20 because of Gary Payton. I loved everything about him. I mean, he was the big trash talker. That's not part of my personality, but I love the fact that like he always played with like this tenacity and stuff like that. And I feel like Kemp was like he's probably not the first guy, but he was one of those guys that like even though he couldn't shoot the ball too great, like he had so much athleticism, he could get all up and down the court. I love the way they played. I love the lobs. I love the defense. I love the fact that they made it to the finals and Peyton was just given as much effort as he possibly could on Jordan. Peyton and Kemp are probably one of my most favorite duos to watch. And I really, really love that Sonics team. I love the Lakers growing up, but if I had that second team, it was that Sonics team with Peyton.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Alan?
My reaction was like that because I have them in my top five. So
There we go. See, look at
I
that.
definitely agree, man. I just remember the energy and the tenacity they played with. GP on the defensive end and the way he was bodacious and the way he talked to players, man. He didn't care. He was the
Yep.
first person I seen like I don't care who you are, NJ, like I'm GP and this and that. And then the way Sean Kemp would just abuse the rim. And, like that's the main thing that stands out for him being like so athletic, right? But people forget he had a very good vision of the floor, Sean
Yeah.
Kemp, and he was demonstrative on the glass as a rebounder, man.
Yeah.
So he's by far one of probably the top 5 to 7 most athletic players to ever play the NBA.
And he used to play. He played in an era where I mean, you weren't allowed to taunt, but in the NBA they kind of let you get away with it. So that was like the golden days. Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
That was the golden days of the NBA where they let you taunt and stuff like that. So and the other thing about GP was he used to post guys up. He used to post up other guards, and that's something you don't see anymore in the NBA. You don't see guards
Right.
post up other guards. And GP was doing it, and that's like a lost art. I feel like in the NBA today.
I loved Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp was one of my favorite players of all time. There's a generation, maybe two generations of kids that don't even know who the Rain Man was. I mean, he
Oh,
was devastating.
nasty.
The dunks, he was fearless. He could get up and down the court. I mean, he had that nice little mid-range jumper, hence the Rain Man.
Yep.
I mean, he was a monster, man. That's a heck of a number 5 pick. There are no arguments out of me on that. Alan, who'd you have as your number 5?
GP and Sean Kemp.
Yeah, there you go. Me and Alan, we're on the same page. I knew I did the right thing when I told you to call up Alan. There we go.
So I didn't go with them as my number 5. I actually went with, and this might piss a few people off, but I went with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale.
Oh, that's not good. I mean, you got to put him somewhere. You can't just, like completely ignore. We're trying to be a little objective here, but
I'm gonna be completely honest. This is a Lakers podcast. I'm joking. No, they were deadly too. I'm joking, man.
I almost didn't put them on there because I feel like you can't exclude Robert Parrish with them. They're more of a trio, but Bird and McHale. I mean, again, a generation doesn't know McHale's footwork was devastating. He was great on the box. Larry Bird, I mean, everybody knows who he is. He's one of the greatest players of all time. And they won, I think, 3 rings together. I believe they went to 4 finals, 3 rings. I mean, so they were nasty. They were nasty.
Look, if you got to put any Celtics duo in the top 5, putting them at the very bottom of the top 5 is the best choice. So I'm okay with that.
Exactly.
Who'd you have as your 4th greatest all-time duo, Vinay?
4th greatest all-time duo. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who I could think of. I don't know who I would put at 4th. I know like what my top 3 probably are, but I don't know who I put my 4th. Alan, you got a 4? Maybe I'll agree with you. Who you got?
My 4 is Stockton and Malone.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think of.
Stockton and Malone.
Yeah. You know what? I could put them at 4. I agree with that. They were a pretty crazy tandem, and that pick and roll that they used to run. And Malone was like you said, like Kemp. He was just like a physical, athletic. He was just a beast running the floor and running that pick and roll.
What a jump shot!
Oh yeah.
And
Malone was nasty.
He could shoot. Because he could shoot, that's what made the pick and roll that much more deadlier and a wider variety of options for Stockton. On top of the shooters spacing the floor, of course. But when the guy setting the screen can pull up, he can step out 18, 19, 20 feet and knock down the jumper. And if he catches it, he can rip by and go by you and dunk and knee you in your stomach like Karl Malone.
That's like the most uncalled offensive foul move. Like when the guy comes up, when he goes up with both hands and then he lifts that knee up just a little bit, just to like ward the guy away from jumping. They don't call those anymore, I think. But it's a sneaky.
Him
sneaky
and Robert Horry, man. Him and Robert Horry.
And I don't. Go ahead, Alan.
I remember Malone used to get into it with Dennis Rodman all the time.
Oh yeah,
coming up and down the court.
Yeah.
Dennis he would grab his ass.
Yeah.
It was so bad they started wrestling.
Yeah.
Remember they got on WCW or something like that?
Yeah. Carl went on that, and I think who was the other guy? It was Rodman that was on there. It was like NWO against WCW or something like that. And I remember that was the first time I had ever seen something like that. I'd seen basketball players show up in the ring like that. And I saw Karl Malone walk up with his crew. And I was like, yo, this guy's built like a wrestler. There's no size difference between him and everybody else. And I was just like, I never seen him in person live, but I was like, can you imagine like a guy that size playing basketball the way he was? It's crazy. And he used to wear like those dual wristbands, like the wristbands on both sides, so he looked like he was ready to like Olympic wrestle right after. It's crazy.
Right.
If Malone gets 2 rings, if he beats Jordan twice, is he the greatest power forward of all time?
Yep.
Yeah, has to be. He's got the scoring accolades. The only thing he doesn't have is the chip. That's all it is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think Stockton's probably, because also he never won any rings, but he should be way up in the conversation when it comes to point guards, but he's probably a little bit lower just because he didn't get the ring. So now you get like the Currys, Magic, all of them kind of moving up above him right now.
Yep.
So it's funny. I was putting my list together and I completely forgot about Stockton and Malone. And I think I think I forgot about them because they didn't win a ring, but they were nasty.
Mm-hmm.
They were certainly nasty. My number 4 is LeBron and Dwayne Wade.
Okay.
So
And
I
I was
see what
hesitant
you're
to put them
doing
on there
here.
too. I was hesitant because Bosch, it was more of a threesome, but
Yeah, see, I see what you're doing here, man.
Yeah.
That's two. That's two. That's your last two duos that had a third player, man.
I had to. If I was going to put them in there because they were part of trios, really, they were going to be at the bottom. So once we get out of this, not so much. But yeah, I had to have them on there. I thought about going in another direction, but yeah, that's why I had it 4.
Yeah, I think that so like before we got on, I mentioned to you guys like I don't know what the time limit if there's like a criteria or like a threshold where you got to be playing together for like at least 5 years or something like that to qualify for this. So that's the only reason why I probably won't put that duo there. But I understand folks that would put it there. I mean, the 4 years of basketball that Miami Heat team had, it was like aside from the championships, it was like some of the most entertaining basketball you could probably watch. They're just throwing lobs and stuff to each other all day.
Who do you have at number 3?
Me or Alan?
You, Vinay.
Oh, so of my top three, 2 of them are Laker duos, and the third Laker duo, which is my third rank, is going to be Magic and Kareem, that I have as my duo for my third best duo in the NBA. The reason why I put them there is obviously there's another Laker duo that's very close to my heart that's going to be ranked higher than them. But at the same time, Magic coming in as a rookie, being an impact rookie just like from the jump, and doing the things that he did, and Kareem just being the vet, being that steady anchor for that team. When I first got into basketball was probably right at the tail end of their career. But I remember my grandfather spent a lot of time watching Lakers basketball just because he thought it was super entertaining, and he loved Magic. It was just something about like the personality, being in the forum, the crowd, and just the experience of watching Lakers basketball. And the fact that they were successful, man. Like, they lost in the finals, they won in the finals. You got that like that joy and agony with that duo. So that's who I got. I got Magic and Kareem as my number 3.
Interesting. That's low for a tandem that won 5 rings.
I know, but I'm trying to be objective here. If I wasn't being objective, then it would be a little bit different. But go ahead.
What do you think, Alan?
I like it. I understand what he was saying. I slightly agree. But I'm just saying, man. But my third is Kobe and Shaq. I got to see them play a lot, and for the majority of all of their career, basically. But I mean, I don't think they completely reached their full potential, right? And 3 rings with the ability that they had, and the team that they had, the teams that they had around them, they probably could have won more. And they admitted that multiple times, like they could have won 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 rings, whether they be in a row or whether they have been in a 8 or 9 year span. So I got them at 3. So I'll stick with that. I'll stick with Kobe and Shaq at 3. I wouldn't. It was hard to do.
Yeah,
because the first one that came to my mind, duo Kobe and Shaq.
It's Kobe and Shaq. Yep,
all day. But
Yep.
I have to be real with myself on that one. So Kobe and Shaq at 3.
So this might piss some people off, but my number 3
Oh my God,
is Michael and Scotty.
Wow.
Now they can easily be, full disclosure, they can easily be number 1, obviously.
Yeah.
But the reason why I have them at number 3 behind 2 Laker duos is because they won more rings than the 2 Laker duos that I'll eventually get to. But those 2 Laker duos, the 4 players, they're all widely considered top 5 to top 10 players. Pippen is not considered a top 10 player. And so Michael all day. But if obviously their accomplishments stand on their own with 6 rings, but when I started looking at, okay, let's look at them individually, out of Jordan and Pippen doesn't stack up to the other guys on
the other stars. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason I dropped them. But I don't know. I'm sure that's going to piss some people off.
What do you think? for what 17 years of LeBron's career, because he's a Laker now, all we've been hearing about is how terrible the Eastern Conference has been ever since he's been there. Does any of that lack of competition in the Eastern Conference, does that apply to those Bulls teams and their championship runs?
Well, the East wasn't bad though. When I mean, like the Knicks were good back then. Who'd they go through for those rings? I know they went through the Knicks.
India, they played
the
Miami,
Knicks, the Pacers,
yeah, Knicks,
the
Pacers.
Magic.
I mean,
they beat
played
Shaq's
the
Magic.
Magic.
They beat Shaq's Magic. Yep.
I mean, even if the
and lost
East,
to them.
Yeah, I forgot about Shaq's Magic. Well, even shout out to Penny and Shaq. Damn, they were a great duo also.
Yeah.
But even if the East was weak when Jordan was playing, he ran through everybody in the West. So it isn't even like LeBron dropped to Golden State, but Jordan didn't lose to anybody.
Interesting. I'm curious. I'm curious that to know if a lot of the conversation is always you made it to the finals but you lost. That's obviously the biggest marker against LeBron. They're like, oh, you made it like 9 times, you only won like 3 times. But it's if you can't win in the finals, considering your competition, making it to the finals is a pretty big accomplishment if you ask me. And I don't know any competitive basketball person that's going to say, no, I don't want to play with the guy that goes to the, that can get me to the finals every year. So it just kind of makes me wonder sometimes that did the Eastern Conference just get worse after Jordan left, or was Jordan just that much better than the Eastern Conference and that's why he was getting there? Because I mean, I could see the argument that maybe the Eastern Conference wasn't as good as everybody says it was when Jordan was playing, because Jordan was so much higher level, so much better than ever. Like just like you said, Scotty doesn't hold he doesn't hold a candle to Kareem or Magic or any of the other, Kobe or Shaq.
Right.
So was the difference between Scotty and Jordan so much that even the rest of the Eastern Conference couldn't match up? It's the same thing we say about Bron.
It's funny. So I was watching an interview with John Sally the other day that he did on Vlad TV, and he said when the Bad Boy Pistons used to beat up on Jordan, he was like, all that stopped when Scotty got there and Phil let Scotty kind of have more of a bigger role. He said Scotty was the one that we did. Like, we had to match up with Jordan. We had everything figured out with Mike. But once Scotty became Scotty, we couldn't stop both of them. So Scotty's a top 20, top 25 player in my book, but he's just not as great as some of these other guys. Let me ask you this, though. If Jordan doesn't retire, does he beat Hakeem those 2 years that the Rockets won?
I don't know.
Because that Rockets team those 2 years were Hakeem was humming, man.
But they were built like in opposite ways, right? Because they did Houston run 2 bigs. Was Sampson playing with them too at the same time?
Sometimes, yeah. But that was a little earlier, I think.
That was earlier?
Because hold on, who was the big on that team? Ori was on that team.
Team.
He was young.
Was Otis Thorpe, was he on that team?
I can't remember. But I feel like their offenses were built in the opposite direction. So like Chicago had, they had their bigs and stuff like that, but obviously they're more perimeter oriented, more wing oriented. Yeah, Jordan, Pippen running the play, whereas you had Houston setting up, Hakeem and stuff like that. Nobody could guard Hakeem as it was, and you saw what he did to Shaq in the finals. So I would say, I don't know. It could be a toss up because you never know. It depends on who wins their matchups, right?
It was going to come down to, okay, Jordan's going to X out the shooting guard, right? Automatically, whether it was Kenny the Jet, whether it was Mario Ellie, no matter. Drexler, I'm Xing him out, bam, whatever, okay?
Yep.
So then you go with Hakeem, Xing out whoever your center or your power forward.
Luke Longley. Luke Longley was the center, right? And Harsh was still on that team?
Yeah.
Luke Longley, Luke Longley was there, Horace Grant was there. So he's going to X them out. But he's Xing out 2 of your rotational players right there.
Right. Yep.
Now it's gonna come down the road. So then you got Scotty going against Mario Ellie, Robert Ory, Sam Cassell, all these other guys.
Yep.
Who were consistent and floor spacers. Right. So maybe Scotty and his matchup balance it out. Him and Ory. Maybe Scotty gets it by a couple points, couple rebounds, whatever it may be. But then you got Sam Cassell, Mario Ellie for sure outdoing.
Ron Harper was the starting point guard, right?
Yeah, he was their defensive point guard or whatever, like the floor leader.
They were big on. So Harper was what 6'5", 6'6". Jordan was 6'6".
Yeah.
Scotty was 6'7". I mean, they were big, man, on the perimeter.
Yeah, I did. I don't know what years they had Kukoc also, because Kukoc was on that
Oh.
roster too as well. So they had that whole like they could match up with the spread out situation. But again, like it's hard to tell because in the finals we've always like typically. I mean, obviously in recent history we haven't seen that, but back prior to the 3-point craze and stuff like that, the era that we're in now, like people used to go into their big. If you had a dominant big, you would win because you'd always get like these easy close shots at the rim and stuff like that. So I don't know, man. It could go either way.
I say they split.
Yeah. The only other thing I could say is Chicago probably had the better coach. So I don't know if you're going to be able to outcoach Chicago and outcoach
Who was the coach?
Phil.
Was it Adelman? Was coaching the Rockets back then?
Let me see.
I don't think he has a championship.
Oh yeah, it was Rudy Tomjanovich.
Tomjanovich.
He coached the Lakers for like a week.
Yeah, he had like a heart attack. Yeah, it was Tomjanovich. Yeah, you guys are right.
So Vinay, who's your third greatest duo?
So third, I had. So second, I picked Peyton and Kemp.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth, I was cool with Malone and Stockton. Third, I have. Oh, I think third I told you, right? Third was Magic and Kareem. So second.
Yeah. Yep.
So second, I have Jordan and Pippen as second on my list of NBA's greatest duos. And the reason why I don't have them first, I wouldn't say it's second, it's like 1B. I wouldn't say it's like they're second. The reason why I have them as 1B is because they have the greatest coach of all time that was coaching them. Secondly, I don't know if the Eastern Conference was as good as the Western Conference back then, because I don't know how that can just all of a sudden, just disappear. I don't know how the conference just becomes less competitive because Jordan retired. I mean, obviously because Jordan retires, but I think Jordan was just so much better than everybody else in that conference that you just weren't going to beat him in the playoffs unless you had like 30 fouls and you were just fouling him every single time he touched the ball. And I mean, that's really the only reason why I have them as like 1B or 2. So I've got Jordan and Pippen as 2. They were dominant when they got to the finals. They were great, but at the same time, they were playing some team. They played the Jazz twice, and I was like, all right, once you beat a team like the first time, you're like, all right, if we see them again in the finals and there's no changes in the roster, it's basically the same roster. You probably already know how you're going to match up or who's going to dominate. And the Jazz kept it a competitive series, but like I don't know if they really had any chance against Jordan and stuff like that. But I've got them at number 2, and I'm sure there's a lot of basketball purists that are not going to like that.
Who's your number 2, Alan?
I got a 1A, 1B.
Okay.
I kind of altered it just now. I'm gonna put Magic and Kareem second.
Okay.
I had them at the top, but I only know about them historically from watching highlight tapes and just reading, right? Mm-hmm. So I can't fully judge them. So I'm gonna have Magic and Kareem at 2. They were very dominant. No, you can call them dominant. They did lose to the Celtics as well, but when we get to this point right here, where it's who's the best and who's the second best, they lost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I dropped them down to 2. So I dropped Magic and Kareem down there. But yeah, I'm not changing. That's 2. I'm not. As I keep thinking, man, I want to flip it, and I'm like, man, but I'm gonna leave Magic and Kareem at 2.
Yeah, I've got them at 2 also. And they could to me, they could be number 1 also, but I've got them at number 2. They were a devastating duo, obviously. I think even though as great as they were, Kareem ended up, he was a bit older, certainly as they went along in the years. So they won 5 rings, but Kareem did win one with Oscar Robinson also, I believe. Mm-hmm. But 5 rings is a lot. They dominated their era. But they did lose to the Celtics, who won, I think, 3 or 4 during that same stretch. But yeah, I've got them at number 2. So I'm curious to see, Vinay, who you have at number 1.
So number 1 is the duo that's near and dear, closest to my heart. The duo that I feel probably didn't have role players as good as Magic and Kareem and Scotty and Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
It's Kobe and Shaq. Shaq was the most dominant person. I have like the most physically dominant player I have ever seen at his position. And he was skilled. He was very skilled.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people think that Shaq used to just dunk the ball all the time. They don't realize he had that shot put little floater that he used to take
Turn
right out of the
around.
middle of the take out of the middle of the key. He used to have that drop step spin. He used to have that move where he used to clear out dudes with his elbow and stuff like that. And like Vlade and those guys and Sabonis and them, they used to all complain about it. And I mean, I don't think there's anything more about Kobe and his legacy and his tenacity and competitiveness as a player that needs to be said that hasn't been said in over the course of his career. But the reason why I have them number one is because the Lakers, even during their three-peat run, were not favored to win even some of those rounds going into the finals. Like when they got to the finals and they were playing like the Nets or they're playing like the Pacers or something, they may have been favored. But they weren't the favorite against Portland. They weren't the favorite against the Kings. They weren't the favorite against like the Spurs at times. Yep. They were consistently counted out before they could actually make it to the finals against the East. And that's, this is that argument that the East wasn't as good as the West. It was because the Lakers were making it to the finals and were just like wiping out teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. So the reason why I have them number one is because their role players were like, not that they were terrible, but their role players were like Fisher. Fisher's a great point guard, but it's not like he was like lighting it up. He's not like the greatest point guard of all time. Like we had Rick Fox playing. Kobe won of the year. Oh, this is without Shaq, but he won it with Ariza. He won with Artest. The role players weren't as like seasoned or as great as the role players on the other side. And we brought back Horace Grant. I feel like for one run.
I think the role players, they shine in their roles, man. And the third player, you just never knew who the third guy was going to be. One year was Glenn Rice. Year.
No, go ahead.
So you got Glenn Rice 1 year, right? You bring him in, and he's the first 1 year. We get the ring. Bam.
2000.
Then you brought it. Yep. Then the first guy they brought in first though when Phil came was Ron Harper.
Yeah.
Yep. And he was a Jared Dudley type guy, but he was getting more minutes on the floor.
Yep.
He only brought Ron Harper in because of him already knowing his system, because of the way he could relate to the players that Phil wouldn't be able to.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So you got Rick Fox, Robert Horry, Derek Fisher, Ron Harper, Horace Grant,
Glenn Rice.
Right. So the role players were some guys, man.
Yeah.
Look, somebody just chimed in and said
Brian Shaw. Yep. Brian Shaw had that left corner lob that he used to love to throw to Shaq every time.
They brought in J.R. Ryder, I think, the second year of the three-peat.
Yep.
They brought J.R. So I was going to say that the reason why I've got them number one is we hear it today with this Lakers team right now that we got like all these role players, but when LeBron goes to the bench and stuff like that, the team falls apart. If it's just Anthony Davis, the role players won't stack up and stuff like that. And I feel like, and there are other teams that have more talent on their roster. They got guys that are individually better talented, more top to bottom, more talented. And I feel like that Lakers team with that duo of Shaq and Kobe used to go through that every single time. Whether it be Popovich and the Spurs or the Blazers team that was super stacked. They had like Jermaine O'Neal coming off the bench or something like that for that team.
Yep.
Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah, Wallace was on that team. And so like all these different teams that the Lakers weren't favored against. And, we've had incredible moments come out of their championship runs and stuff like that. So that's the reason why I have Kobe. And, the other reason why is I watched all 20 years of Kobe Bryant. I watched all the years that Shaq played for the Lakers. So for me, that's the closest. And I caught, a certain section. That's why for the folks that are asking or that are like raising their eyebrows, that I put Scotty and Jordan a little bit lower. I didn't watch Scotty and Jordan as much as I watched Kobe and Shaq. And it's the same thing for Kareem and Magic. Like I don't penalize guys for losing in the finals as much because getting to the finals that's like the second best thing that could possibly happen. But I'm more attached to that duo because I got a chance to see it all. I got to sit in front of my TV and like scream when Ori shot that three off that Vladi tip and stuff like that. So, that's the reason why I have them number one. They were always counted out. And even after winning back-to-back championships, man, they were like, oh, no, three-peat's not going to happen. Look at this other team in the West. They got way more talent top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I got them at the top.
Alan, who would you have at the top of your list?
Scotty and MJ.
Okay.
To be honest, man, I know I'll probably piss people off, but Jordan was never my favorite player.
Who's your favorite player?
My favorite player is Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, there you go. That's our Jordan.
Like from '96 to when he retired, that's who I watched every night.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, yes, I understood how good or how great. I don't want to understate it. I know how great Jordan was, right? I saw the things he did, but at the same time, I wasn't seeing all 82 of his games.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or I would see him in the finals, and I would see him go against GP, and I would see him go against Utah. And like, okay, I understand it, but I just couldn't relate as much to him as I did Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
But I still understand that they never lost in the finals, and I also understand how much his attitude and mentality rolled off on every single guy on their team.
Mm-hmm.
And people underestimate Scottie Pippen. And at one point early in the 90s, when they did the top 50 greatest players, he was one of those guys.
Yep.
Right. And,
yep.
And Scott, and then they said Scottie couldn't do this, and that without Jordan. He put up some big numbers. Yes, they lost, but he put up some big numbers all season. Then he goes to Portland as an older guy and does the same thing.
Yep.
And he did the same thing in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So when people say Scottie he may not have the stardom, but when you look at his resume, all defensive, all NBA, and all stars, he was one of those guys, man. Him and Larry Johnson used to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Grandmama.
Him and Larry Johnson used to bump heads, man.
And we ran into Scottie, right, when we had to beat Portland in a series, and Portland was one of those teams, man. They had like Derek Anderson, I think Stoudemire was on that team. Yeah,
that team was Bonzi Wells.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And he was one of the I think that was the team that had Patterson. Yeah, there we go. The Kobe stopped him.
Scottie was a bad man, and look, I let me just say this. Let me be really clear. I'll take Scottie over Kawhi Leonard, and
Scottie was good.
And that's not me hating Kawhi because he didn't sign with the Lakers. Like, look at their historical numbers. I mean, Scottie was defensively, he was the monster. If he was playing in today's NBA, he would easily be a max player. Yeah. I mean, that he could shoot, he could drive, he could spread he could do whatever he wanted on the floor, man. So yeah, Scottie was a bad man.
You guys think I've heard people say before that LeBron's like a more gifted version of Scottie. Like obviously when LeBron wants to get engaged on the defensive end, he could do that. But I've heard that LeBron is. I've heard people say that, and I feel like Scottie said something like that a long time ago. And I know LeBron, like when they talk about him, it goes from like Magic. LeBron passes like Magic, or LeBron has this clutch gene like Jordan. And then I've heard people say he's like Scottie. I don't know, man. When I think about it, when I look at how Scottie used to play and just kind of his physical capacity, like the athleticism and stuff he has. I mean, I think Bron is more athletic than probably Scottie was, but all the skill set stuff, the ball handling, the passing, all that stuff. Yeah. So it's I can see it.
I think Scottie came in more ready than Kawhi did.
Oh yeah.
I know his first year he averaged single digits, but right after that he ran off like 6-7 straight years of double-digit points with a few.
And I feel like
in there.
And I feel like the 2 years that Jordan took a break, Scottie was like tremendous. He was second in MVP voting, I believe, one of those years.
Yeah,
was
going. Yeah. The first year.
Yeah. Scottie was nasty. I think he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. I think people kind of look over him, but he was a bad man.
Yeah.
So the top of my list, Shaq and Kobe. I mean, they are I'm old enough to remember Michael and Scotty in their primes. You know, I came on the scene kind of at the tail end of Magic and Kareem, but I grew up on Shaq and Kobe. Like they are it for me. I've never seen a player as dominant as Shaq was. I mean, obviously Wilt Chamberlain is probably his best historical comp, but I didn't get to see Wilt. And Kobe's the closest thing that I've ever seen to Michael Jordan. So these two dudes, I do think it's fair to say that they didn't have as great of a supporting cast as, say, you know, the Showtime Lakers or the 90s Bulls, because the league also expanded. So like when the Showtime era Lakers were running off and winning championships, the league only had 23 teams. By the time Shaq and Kobe came on the scene, the league had 29 teams. So, you know, the Shaq Kobe Lakers didn't have the chance to have a James Worthy on their team, or a Michael Cooper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know, or even a Byron Scott, who I know most young Laker fans hates as a coach, but as a player, Byron Scott was a damn good player. You know, I mean, so those Laker teams, the Celtics teams also, they were stacked because the league wasn't as spread out. So, in their primes, like all of these duos, I'd take Shaq and Kobe against anybody.
Yeah, but I don't think even though we were winning championships, it almost felt like we were underdogs all the time because of the way everybody was trying to promote the other teams over the Lakers. Yep. I think the other reason why is because at their position, I'll put it this way. You know, like the NBA is a copycat league, you know, and right now everybody says that because of all the 3-point shooting out, and you know, even prior to that, because of like all the skill set, the skill set a guy like LeBron has, people are trying to draft like these forwards and stuff like that who are like these multi-purpose forwards that could pass, that could shoot, that could score. And then, you know, now with Curry and the prevalence of shooting in the NBA, they're looking for like these guards that can shoot like 40% from three, have like quick triggers, can get around screens and stuff like that. But there was a long stretch of basketball, I would say, like from 95 to maybe probably like 2010, where everybody was trying to find that next Kobe Bryant. So that's why you get the guys like McGrady. That's why you get, or not the McGrady, but you had like guys drafting shooting guards like the OJ Mayos and stuff like that. Everybody was trying to find that shooting guard that could fill that like role of the volume shooting guard that Kobe Bryant was. And for a long time, when Shaq was on the scene, everybody was drafting centers to try and stop Shaq. Everybody was. Mm-hmm. So when Yao Ming came on the scene, there was supposed to be a new big man to come in, like run the NBA. And Shaq said, nope, we're going to get him out of the way too. Sabonis was supposed to be the sweet passing, you know, big man, can defend, has a body. Rick Smits for Indiana was supposed to be the guy who could pull up and shoot. You had Ostertag in Utah, who was supposed to body Shaq too. I'm trying to think of all these different centers that people used to have. And and people were trying to draft guys like the Clippers drafted Michael Olowokandi because they thought that he could stop. Yeah, that he could stop Shaq. Like people were making decisions based on stopping Shaq and Kobe, and so I feel like those two for a long time set the trends for how the draft used to work for a lot of teams. And I mean, we don't know. I mean, people won't know it now. The LeBron Curry generation of fans, the young kids, they won't know it. But Shaq and Kobe were their duo and their abilities caused ripples in the NBA that maybe folks don't realize.
Well, I go ahead, Alan.
I want to say also with the lack of depth that the Lakers had on those rosters, one thing I felt was a reason they were underdogs is because the media used to pour so much energy into the Lakers are going to fall apart this year because Kobe and Shaq can't get along.
Yep.
They're going to fall apart this year because this, and that. Oh, Kobe said this to Shaq in practice because he came in out of shape in training. Blah, 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 blah. Like, they're talking about training camp in March and April still, like, trying to make something happen where I think it was never – and they end up saying it was never that serious. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes they did it for the media, and they were on the same page the whole darn time. Like, so I think that was one reason why they were also underdogs is because everybody thought they didn't have the camaraderie.
I agree.
No, I agree. And this is a bit off topic, but I'm going to tell you guys this, and I'm curious to hear your opinions. I was talking to a sports writer the other day. I'm not going to mention his name because he said he didn't want Lakers Nation coming after him.
Oh,
But
nobody does. We're the biggest. NBA Twitter is Lakers Twitter. If anybody who's watching this or sees this afterwards, like there's no like confusion about that. Like the Lakers are the biggest fan base on Twitter. So like, it takes us what, like a 3-minute segment of Rondo playing like garbage for us to get him trending on Twitter globally.
Right.
So come on now.
What is it, eh? What do you say?
Oh,
Vinay, you there?
yeah, I'm here.
Oh, go ahead. You froze up for a second. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm good.
We're waiting on your sports writer question.
What's your question?
Oh, my bad. I guess it was on my end. No, listen. So he said for a stretch, Tracy McGrady was every bit as good as Kobe Bryant. And I said, offensively, I think McGrady could do pretty much what Kobe could do offensively, but defensively is where Kobe completely separated himself. Not to mention, you look at their primes, McGrady's peak lasted 7 years, while Kobe was still in his prime for about 14 seasons up until he tore his Achilles. So I said the longevity. And this writer said you can't hold McGrady's injuries against him. And I said no, but if he was only at his peak for 7 years and Kobe was at his peak for 14, I mean, you can't throw that out the window either. So, somebody once told me the best ability is availability, and Kobe was available more times than not. And again, defensively, Kobe was the best offensive player and the best defensive player in the league for a stretch.
Yeah, I would say
T-Mac was different. T-Mac was
go ahead,
different.
Alan.
He was 6'8", first of all, long wingspan, and he was uberly athletic. And then once his jump shot started getting better and his handle started getting tighter, I think for about 2 years in Orlando, he was that guy. He was that guy in Orlando about 2 years, and I can go with 2 years there when him and Kobe were neck and neck, or somebody that have T-Mac up there better than Kobe, or vice versa. And then his first healthy year in Houston, when we bumped into them in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I like T-Mac, so I don't really have too much. I mean, I love Kobe, but I don't know about T-Mac being bad. but he was definitely a hard matchup.
I think you could say I agree with you, Alan, that Alex, that in regards to like maybe the offensive ability, like the production and stuff like that was there between T-Mac and Kobe. But I know there's a thing on Twitter where people want to talk about bags and stuff like that when it comes to like offensive skill sets. Do you think T-Mac had the same skill set that Kobe did? Because I feel like maybe he was more of a jump shooter than, I mean, Kobe was a jump shooter too, but I feel like Kobe had a much more mature handle and a much more mature shot selection. Even though, he had some games where he shoot really bad. I feel like because Kobe's game was more mature than T-Mac's, T-Mac was like kind of scoring on like raw ability. Like he had so much, like you say, he was longer, he had athleticism, he could shoot. So he was relying on that, and that could be why his body broke down kind of over time and stuff like that, because of his reliance on athleticism. But
I think T-Mac his game is closer to KD's. Like he reminds me a lot of like a Kevin Durant. He's a bit smaller, but like T-Mac could pull up pretty much from anywhere. He's super athletic, but like him and Kobe's games overlap, but then there are some differences in their games as well.
Does if you swap Tracy and Kobe for the years that Shaq was in LA, do they win as the same number of championships?
No, I don't think so.
What do you think, Alan? Yes or no?
I don't think we win 3 straight.
Okay. Maybe win one. One or two.
I could see them winning the Philadelphia series with T-Mac.
Oh yeah. You think that? Go ahead.
What did you say?
No, I was gonna say you think they get past some of those Western Conference teams with T-Mac instead of Kobe?
We was gonna have to see a different side of T-Mac that we never saw when they played Portland.
Yeah. Okay.
Kobe's mentality, I think, pushed them in a lot of those games.
Yeah.
That Portland team was so
they were stacked.
rough. They were stacked. They were rough, physical. Man, Bonzi Wells, Ruben Patterson, Scottie Pippen.
Yeah. And
we're throwing bodies at you.
Yeah. And they would go fight. If they had to fight to get you out of the game, they would go fight.
Literally.
Yep.
Like, so we were just going to have to see something different from T-Mac that we never saw because we only saw him on nationally televised games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I say they beat Philly. They would beat Philly. He might have struggled versus that Pacers team because they were really physical as well. And I think we could probably beat the Nets with T-Mac too.
Yeah. Should I can see that. I've had people say, you know, if they had T-Mac, they would have won 3 straight.
I don't know if they won 3 straight.
Yeah, I don't either. I think they get 1, and then you have to see what happens from there. So
we were able to throw Kobe on AI. Could T-Mac guard AI?
Oh no, not back then. AI was he was giving Kobe the business.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel like we probably win a championship, or depending on who we match up with and how it goes. But I think the stuff that we said sort of along this rankings, like about how Kobe's like his character, we mentioned about Jordan, like his character and his personality kind of was infectious. He held other people accountable, and I think like that sort of leadership is something that is like one of those intangible things that you can't put like any sort of quantification on. I'll say the other thing is this too. That triangle offense is not an analytics friendly offense at all. Nope. It doesn't emphasize taking like the best shot available. That offense is, swing the ball around, but it's really find the mismatch. Like, where is it that mismatch is? It's the same action every time, except it may just be a different result. It's either a kick out pass, a drop off pass, or it's a layup, or maybe a pull up jumper. So I feel like, and this is something that I know a lot of people, a lot of the big Kobe fans, like the knowledgeable Kobe fans, have said this. You can't compare Kobe's offense and his era and his shooting percentages, and that offense to like what goes on today. Today, everybody's trying to optimize for space and skill, and you got video and data and tape and stuff like that. That triangle offense is not what that is, and it was more about matchups and finding the right play, and read and react, that kind of offense. So I don't know if T-Mac would have been successful in that offense because he probably wouldn't have gotten the same kind of volume, maybe, or maybe had the same kind of like offensive reads, made the same reads that Kobe did at times. So that's
he would have gotten probably 15 shots a game, similar to what Glenn Rice got that first season he got there. And Del Harris. So it's funny, you guys probably know this. I don't know if all the fans do, but like Del Harris said that Jerry West tried to convince Jerry Buss to trade for T-Mac in 1997 to pair him with Shaq and Kobe, but Jerry Buss didn't want a team that young, so it ended up not happening. But can you imagine a young Kobe and a young T-Mac with a prime Shaq?
That would have been nice. We got to see. They didn't have Shaq, but we got to see Vince, and T-Mac was like backing him up basically. Yep. And I remember when he got traded, I was just like, why did these two guys not play together at the same time all the time? Yep. And I feel like that was like a huge missed opportunity for the Raptors when it happened. But oh my God, if you put T-Mac next to, how many more years does he add to Shaq and Kobe's career? Right. Just by being there?
How many more years do they add to his career?
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
I mean, you're talking those three. I mean, they could probably win 5? I mean, I don't want to say easily, but they should. If you add T-Mac on that Lakers team, they probably beat Detroit that year, right? Yep. And then maybe Shaq doesn't get. Huh?
We beat Detroit. We beat Detroit if Karl Malone don't get hurt.
Yeah, if he don't hurt his knee. Yep.
I completely agree with that statement. So, God.
My bad for throwing that in there. So you were saying we probably beat Detroit with T-Mac.
Right. So you beat Detroit with T-Mac. That gives us 4. And then maybe Shaq doesn't get traded to Miami. Yeah. And so then, I mean, because Kobe goes on to win 2 more Rapal. So, I mean, they might, this is going to sound ridiculous. They might win like 7 rings.
I think
ridiculous.
I think they could have won. They could have at least won that. If Shaq doesn't leave to Miami, they probably still have a good chance of winning more championships. Like if he had just stayed like 2 extra years or
Right.
something like that before instead of bouncing around the league like he did. Because Shaq still had some maybe after he left the Lakers, he probably had like maybe 2-3 years. Like he had to maybe figure out his workload a little bit, but he probably still could have been very competitive. So
That first year in Miami, he was he was runner up to MVP to Steve Nash, so he still had it in him.
Yeah.
You know, at least for 2 more seasons.
I will say, sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Shaq could have played longer if he took better care of his body, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think he says that himself. Basically, he was just chilling in the off season. He get into shape during the regular season.
Right.
He do it on company time. That's what he used to say.
With should the Lakers have gotten T-Mac and Kobe on the same team and Shaq, right? And then Shaq leaves. 2 years later, I think either 06 or 07, they were about to get Kevin Garnett.
Yeah.
Garnett
Now a team with Kobe, T-Mac, and KG. What
would have been
they
nasty.
do?
Yeah, that would have been nasty. That would have been nasty, man.
But even if I believe KG recently said the Lakers reached out to him, so he reached out to Kobe, but Kobe didn't respond. I think he said he texted him or something, and Kobe didn't respond. Yeah. And that's kind of why he ended up going to Boston. But if KG goes to LA, LA never gets Powell, I would imagine.
Right.
But then if KG doesn't go to Boston, Boston doesn't become our biggest rival again. Right. Yeah. So then if KG goes to LA with Kobe, who stands in the way of Kobe and KG winning maybe 3 rings?
Nobody.
LeBron?
My point is LeBron didn't get there.
Yeah.
He got there in 07, right?
Yeah.
So that means T-Mac, Kobe, and KG would have had to beat that Spurs team, which was pretty good in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that Spurs team wouldn't have been able to match up with the athletic ability from all 3 of those guys.
Yeah.
KG used to be a handful for Tim Duncan. The reason he would lose when he was in Minnesota to the Spurs is because he didn't have enough depth. Or Wally Zerbiak would be.
Yeah, Wally Zerbiak.
You know what I mean? Yep. So if you get Kobe, KG, and T-Mac on the same team, I think T-Mac will not because of just the rings they could possibly win, but I think T-Mac's career would have been better and he would have been a better player because of the mentality that Kobe and KG would have rubbed off on him.
Yeah.
But I think even if they don't have T-Mac, if you just say Kobe and KG, like you swap out Powell for KG, and then I don't think there's anybody standing in the Lakers' way.
No,
that would have been KG was like right. I mean, he was a little bit older, but his skill set complemented Kobe, and I think the personality fit matched them because there was uber competitors that really matched them really well. And like you said, Alex, like Boston probably doesn't win that championship. That's already a win. The fact that they don't win a championship, so that would have been nice, man. That would have been nice if they had made it. But that's one of those what ifs, man. Like if the Lakers manage to get McGrady and or if they pair it with KG. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Shaq never leaves. Who knows? Like maybe Shaq doesn't leave because he's like, oh, I got a good here. Maybe Shaq doesn't need the max contract. He's like, all right, I'll take a little bit less money because I could just kind of chill a little bit in the background. Because Shaq wanted to get paid because he felt like he was an MVP caliber player. But you never know, man. It's business is business when it comes to that sort of stuff. So it always kind of works out that way.
Or even if Tim Duncan would have actually signed with Orlando.
Yeah.
Remember that when they had Grant Hill, T-Mac, and Duncan went and interviewed? I mean, not interviewed, but went and met with them.
Who told him he couldn't? Who told him he couldn't take his girlfriend on the plane? Anybody know?
Doc Rivers.
Doc Rivers. There you go.
Idiot.
Now look what Doc Rivers doing.
Yeah, look at that.
Now look what sitting in people's living rooms, handcuffing them.
He's ready. Doc ready to give anything up.
We're not holding Kawhi just out of regular season games. He doesn't even have to practice if he doesn't want to. That's how much we'll make sure we take care of him now. Come on, man.
Like imagine telling prime Tim Duncan, no, you can't have your girlfriend fly on the plane. It's just like prime Tim Duncan. That's just ridiculous, man.
Insane.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you joining me for this top 5 conversation. You guys want to tell everybody watching and listening where they can find you at?
You want to go? Oh, I'll go first. You can find me on Twitter at VKillem, VKILLEM. That's pretty much the only place I'm at.
You can check me out on Twitter. ALANMITCHELL, the letter P, the number 3. My Instagram is @_P3 training. And then my AAU program, Los Angeles Elite, Adidas based sponsor program. You can look at us on Twitter and Instagram at Los Angeles Elite.
Al, how do your kids feel, bro? How do they feel now that they can't practice, or are they allowed to practice? What's going on with them?
Nah, we can't do anything, dude. Like it's man, they it's crazy. I just had this conversation with another coach yesterday, man, a college coach, and he was just saying how you're gonna see a difference whenever regular life resumes, or even just sports. When guys come back at every level, high school, college, or pro, this is when you're gonna see who's serious.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's so much downtime. He's like so many guys are gonna come back out of shape. Some of these guys their games are gonna fall off, some games are gonna rise. Our kids are hurting, man, and this is one of our years for our program. We had a lot of things in the last week, literally the last week, like that Wednesday through Friday. It was some big things happening for our program as far as the high profile kids that we were possibly going to get, and they're hurting, man, because a lot of these kids are either in their junior year or their senior year, which is really big for recruiting.
Yep.
And you got to think, man, those 2 years and that 6 months that you have as far as this AU circuit, it changes a lot of families' lives and a lot of these kids' lives.
Yeah.
Whether they get a scholarship, or do they have to pay, or do they end up going to a junior college, or do they go to a prep school? So I think for them to miss out on opportunities of $250,000 scholarships and whatever it may be, it hurts, man. So hopefully we can get back into it around May and July or something, man. I don't know. But I know some of these kids are hurting. I know some of these kids are enjoying playing Call of Duty and 2K and everything all day.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, for all the kids that are part of your program and all the kids that are part of these other AAU programs and stuff like that, I hope that they continue to find success, because one of the things that I've started doing on Twitter more is trying to follow some guys like you who are helping like these high school kids, and helping these kids trying to get into good colleges and help them with their careers and stuff like that. And I feel as though you guys are the coaches at this level, are the high school coaches and trainers and whatnot. You guys are an underappreciated element of basketball today, because a lot of these kids that go and do the one and done stuff or the kids that aren't one and done kids that, maybe have to spend an extra year or something like that, or 4 years before they get into the league, they're polished, and those fundamentals, or like those, like the personality and the character that they have is developed here in high school and stuff like that. And I remember when I was in high school, I wasn't good enough to play D1 or nothing like that, but I remember my high school coach had a lot of impact on me in terms of discipline and stuff like that. So I wish success to your kids, as well as all the other kids, and any of them that are watching this, or any other coaches that may be eventually watching this. I hope everybody finds success, because helping kids is the best thing you could probably do.
Yeah, most definitely, because they're always next up.
Yeah, man.
To all those kids out there that's not able to practice on their skills and get outside, this is a rough time. This is unprecedented. I don't think any of us were ready for anything like this. So, do what you need to do to obviously stay safe, remain healthy, stay in shape as best you can, doing different things. So when you do get back on the court, you guys don't have to run and do a bunch of 2-a-days and do a bunch of crazy stuff to get back up to speed.
Man, our high school team, man, at St. Anthony, we just did our little Zoom meeting yesterday. We had the first week it happened, we had the boys doing the 300 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and go run a mile or two if you can, right?
Yeah.
We get on the Zoom yesterday, everybody joking around. Then out of nowhere, you just see kids start busting out push-ups, right? Like, for real, I'm like, it's funny. I'm like, they sitting there busting out push-ups, and some of these guys are really doing a certain amount of push-ups straight that they couldn't do when the season started last year.
Wow.
And I'm like, so that kind of stuff right there, you love to see it, man. And,
yeah.
And I hope everybody is doing that. That's still stepping out on the court. I hope you really taking care of your body the best way you can, and you just cherish the opportunity that's gonna come once we get back to the swing of things.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. Make sure you guys follow Vinay and Alan. They are huge Laker fans and great followers on social media. Give me a follow at Laker Central 365. And if you're interested in subscribing to Stitcher Premium, you can use promo code Laker Central to get Stitcher Premium free for 37 days. So check it out, folks. And until next time, I'm out.